So our next speaker will be Deep Chakrabarti, and Deep, I would encourage you to share your screen when you're ready. Deep is a medical doctor at King George's Medical University in Lucknow, India, and he will be talking to us about the dynamics of predatory publishing.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Okay, so first up, thank you very much for giving me this chance. So when I received the email from Dr. Kors, I think it was about a letter that I'd written in some journal, and it's about a topic that is I feel very closely against, very strongly against this topic. So it's a good chance for me to speak here. So first up, predatory publishing. Before I even go, I'd like to say that I'm a medical doctor and I understand that I'm sort of underrepresented here. And publishing is way different for different areas. And this is just my experience or things which I think happens more in developing countries and how we can learn from it. So I start off with this article in Hindawi. This was published sometime recently. This is way different from what I do. But what struck me were these error bars. And this was on social media. So these error bars are essentially capital T's and the data availability statement. We'll come back to this in the subsequent presentation. So what is predatory publishing? It's an opportunistic model of publishing. The idea is to make money, it's low quality, and it does not follow the best practices according to DOAJ or COPE, for example. And historically, for example, the Beals list, that was a ready reckoner at some point of time, but there is no list to rule them all. And sometimes there's no clear list which can clearly identify what's predatory, what is not. And predatory journals find a way to permeate even Scopus, for example. And if you include Google Scholar is way too inclusive. So what's the issue? What's the problem in that? The problem is credibility. It's a credibility to yourself, credibility to your colleagues, and it's sort of, you're trying hard, but it's sort of negative acceleration. And another main problem is it may not be okay for taxpayers as well, that their money is going into APCs, into journals with no impact. There's again a comparison, and these journals, how do you identify them? So these journals, the names, they are bizarre, and they are spamming you, and they are just unrealistic. Why is this more a problem in developing countries? Often, early career researchers have no real guidance. The publish or perish exists everywhere. You need papers to graduate, you need papers for promotions from assistant professors to professors and so on. And many times, unfortunately, senior academics are themselves unaware, and they do not mind paying once the end result is there, and the end result is the paper, really. So the UGC, this is a higher education body in India, the University Grants Commission. So they had a list, and they had a list of white journals. And then there was a study which done by this gentleman who was the ex-vice chairman of the UGC, that found that 88% journals there were predatory. And there was this paper in BMC Medicine which basically said that 1/3 of journals in India were predatory, 3/4 of all predatory were from Asia and Africa. Maybe over the years, what has happened is the line itself has gotten thinner. Frontiers used to be on the Beals list, Intech Open was on the Beals list, MTPI was on the Beals list. Hindawi, now that Wiley has taken over, has it become more mainstream? I do not know. What does this possibly entail once you publish there? It possibly entails a lifelong consequence of a poor record, and you are diluting your experimental findings that will percolate through subsequent articles for years. And obviously, the main thing is it impacts your quality of science, and it impacts quality of science for everyone. What can we do about it? I think the first thing is awareness, and I'll talk about awareness a bit more. And the other things are, how do you spot a journal? You go through the website, you do background checks as far as you can, research the editorial board, read previous issues, and so on. There are multiple checklists. This systemic review found that there were more than 90 checklists, but only 3 were free from any bias. I have listed those 3 here. One could use the Think, Check, Submit from Springer. And what do you do about gray zones? You're not sure. Is the journal real? Is the journal not? Is it legitimate? I think don't submit. If you're unsure, you don't submit. Be very cautious about special issues. A journal cannot bring out a special issue every 2 weeks. And it can be tough to sometimes distinguish between what is predatory and what is under-resourced, but it is not that a researcher wants to deceive you that has published in MDPI. That's not the case. What can we do? So I go to the world of sports, and this cricketer from Bangladesh was banned by the cricket governing body because he failed to report approaches. So maybe we can create a repository, maybe we can report approaches. I don't know, is it wishful thinking? Maybe. But maybe we have to create, all of us have to get together, we have to create a repository where we report approaches. And by approaches, I mean, there's so much that's coming in, publish with us, and so on. The next thing is, and this is very important for developing nations, respect hierarchy, but only if you have to. I have seen conferences where senior academics publish and they're presenting their data. It's in a predatory journal, everyone claps, no one bats an eyelid. Please, we have to speak up against that. The science is paramount, and there is nothing else that is more important. Honest, truthful work, there will always be takers for it. It might take time, peer review is hard, but it will get there. It will get there. I look back to the world of sports again in my concluding slides. In 2005, this campaign came up in British football. It was against racism. I think let's do that about predatory publishing as well. Let us stand up, let us speak up, let us take a stand. Let us not be afraid to take a stand. And just to sum up, we should not compromise on the quality of our science. Awareness is very important. It's probably, Elsevier, Springer, you should do something about creating awareness in India, in low middle income countries, low income countries. Do a background check as far as possible. Understand that a low impact journal is much better than a predatory journal. And the burden of proof, whether a journal is predatory or not, it rests on the journal. So I thank you for your time. And I can be reached out on mail, on Twitter, on Slack. The bird logo has unfortunately moved. And thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Deep. And so I think this does a nice job of highlighting that one of the challenges here that makes this issue so difficult is the difficulty in determining what is a predatory journal and which journals are in fact predatory.